Hello and welcome to week 4 in sociology and technology, where we're going to be looking at conflict and war. And I already know that many of you, based on conversations in the class so far, that we're deeply aware of the relationship between the war and conflict and the creation of technology. Many grants, many initiatives in the development of technology are funded through the Department of Defense because there is a perception that those technologies may have important ramifications for the conduct of war and for supporting our military. So, throughout history, this has been the case. Technology that will help the king become more powerful was probably supported a lot more than technology that didn't help the king to become more powerful. So certainly those are factors here. I start off the conversation in the course book with a very dramatic film that was created, animation that portrays the number of human losses, casualties uh, in World War II. The principal component of the disastrous effects of World War II were technology driven. For the first time in human warfare, we had created weapons of singular mass destruction. And I don't just mean the nuclear bomb, I mean tanks, automatic weapons, fighter aircraft, bombs, those kind of things, which were really came to the front in warfare in World War II and produced carnage beyond anything in history. If there's any fear that we should have above all, it's that there would never be another war between the major powers of the earth. That technology in weaponry has continued to escalate. Certainly, there's been some quelling of the nuclear presence, but now that the, the Kremlin has pulled out of nuclear weapons agreements, and it looks like we're going to do the same thing, and we can have that same sort of progression toward the plentiful nuclear weapons and how many times we can blow up the earth and those kind of things. And those are trigger points for deep contemplation on our own safety as a species. Technology shapes warfare. So, when we went from throwing rocks at each other to arrows, there was a significant change in the way people defended themselves and in the way that people engaged in conflict. There's also, we have to also say that because of those conflicts and the pressing need to address new and complicated challenges, science has risen to the game. In World War II, we invented the flu vaccine, we used penicillin, jet engines, we did plasma transfusions, electronic computers, and radar. So these are all things that have enhanced our lifestyle as civilians in society. These advanced our transportation. They've advanced our ability for safe transportation. There's sadly, giving pause for the accidents that have occurred this last week here, but the travel is as safe as it's ever been, safer than it's ever been. And then, the flu vaccine, of course, and plasma transfusions. These are amazing advances in technology that arose because of the needs that occurred during conflicts. So there's a perception or a nod to the fact that conflict produces these kinds of effects. The the discussion is going to focus on kind of when the nuclear weapons start to proliferate in the world. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, these are the individuals. This is the research bulletin for research related to nuclear power and atomic energy. We're concerned about applications of technology for destruction. There's nothing. Nuclear power, in my opinion, is the answer until we find the magic substance. Nuclear power is the most efficient way for us to have all of our energy needs met. Um, but there are dangers, and certainly when you turn those technologies toward destructive elements like nuclear weapons, they are the most dangerous weapons we've ever created. So they took it upon themselves to monitor the factors associated with the likelihood of conflict, and they determined and determined both in the media and through science that a nuclear war is not a winnable war. It's not. It's a mutual annihilation. Does not create a winner. The rats will win. The small mammals that survive our war will be the winners, and cockroaches, those they apparently they can survive all that radiation. um, so there's no winners, so it's referred to as doomsday. If there is a nuclear conflict, boy, the danger of mass destruction and collapse of civilization is very high. So they developed an image called the doomsday clock, and researchers within the field of atomic energy and atomic weapons and whatnot gauge what's happening in the world, and as a symbolic warning system to the public, they publish the doomsday clock every year, where they, based on what's going on in the world, how close are we to doomsday? And since its inception, it's never really been far from doomsday. And right now, we seem to be 89 seconds. Figuratively speaking, we're, a minute and a half away from doomsday. That are the proliferation of current weapons, conflict in the world, misinformation, all of these things. And what I'll point you to is I looked up on the web, I looked up Doomsday Clock 2025, and I got this page. This is the publication of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, closer than ever in history. This is a monumental time. It is now 89 seconds to midnight, 2025 Doomsday Clock statement. What you have here, this was published January 28, just a few days ago. This came out, so brand new stuff. Here's a little bit about that Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer founded. The founded the whole Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, and then what it does, it goes into why are they setting it at that time? Why are we getting closer? And we just look through the different things here in terms of the conflict in the Middle East, climate change, the biological emerging and re-emerging diseases. We're looking at disruptive technologies. And here going United States, China, and Russia are at odds with each other. It kind of goes to explaining why are we now, according to this image, 89 seconds away from doomsday. This should alert, was posed to alert leaders that they're not making the best decisions. That science is saying, is screaming, saying, hey, things are a little volatile right now. You might want to cool things off and start talking to each other because mutual annihilation is not the answer. So I look at this as a very valid way of exploring the idea of the intensity of conflict in our world. It's based on, of course, it has its origins in nuclear technology, but it has since expanded to other threats to human beings on the planet. So the discussion is to go read this and have a good intellectual discussion about what does this mean? What does this mean in terms of our, not only the actions of our leaders, but what does it mean in terms of the actions of ourselves? What do we do? We're, for a large part, powerless over the larger circumstances, but how can we lead our lives to add a degree of positivity to the world in response to this clear indication that we're in danger. The quiz asks you to look at the pros and cons of the military industrial complex. That's the term we use to describe the mechanisms that exist between the government, the military, and industry, including innovative science. One of those powerful triangle of extreme funds and the development of technologies that ultimately have possibilities of military applications. Yet, some of those technologies have become part of the joy of living. GPS was created for military purposes, and then now we have it on our phones. So, good. But if it didn't have a military application, I'm not sure how much longer it would have taken to develop that technology, if ever. I mean, having to, launching satellites is a pretty expensive thing, let alone coordinating them on a global level so that we all have, the right GPSs. And they also had to create, there's a little bit of trivia for you, they had to create spots on the Earth where the satellites can get a setting. They can reset themselves to make sure everything's in the right place. And I heard from a fairly reliable source that one of those spots is an instrument that sits up on the top of the roof of Coney High School in Augusta. So that there is a GPS locator point that the GPS system uses to reset itself is actually based in Augusta on top of Coney High School, the old Coney High School, not the new one, the one that's on the Rotary. It's not Coney High School anymore. It's apartments now, but it's still there, apparently. So with that, that's this week. Also, what I'm looking for is I'm looking forward to hearing more people about their service learning or information literacy projects. I'm going to be sending out over the next week and 2 weeks announcements related to service learning opportunities that are out there. Please consider that. Consider that first. It's a better experience than the information literacy project. There's still research involved, but the service learning project has a public impact. It has a greater learning impact. It's been very well documented, and what you learn during your service learning project will be much more memorable. And it's a great resume builder, having done some volunteer work, and the paper is relatively easy to write. And so please consider that. Consider giving your time to some organization or developing a project. Reach out to me if you have any interest in that. And there's things going on campus. There's things going on in your local communities. There's lots of people gathering together to do things to change their world. So it's a great time to justify getting off the couch and doing something about it. So, all right. So that's it for right now. Have a great week and take care.